An important but shorter video for you today, ladies and gents.
Oh, thank God.
As I wanted to pass information to you of the absolute attack on people's ability to own property in Britain. Now, there are many ways I could do this. The best way that I can see, though, is to go through an article presented by The Telegraph with a little history lesson along the way. This is so that anyone unfamiliar with historical people or places mentioned understand what is being referred to. So with that, let's begin, shall we? This is coming from Alistair Heath, a right-wing journalist and pundit who has often written pieces against crony capitalism and cultural Marxism. Your home is not safe with Labour. Prepare for an assault on affluence. Political outriders are laying the ground for devastating new taxes on property and wealth. Alistair Heath himself already laying the groundwork for what this article will entail. This is the point of maximum danger for anybody who owns property in Britain. The Labour government is desperate for cash and will never be as powerful as it is today. Rachel Reeves, that is the current UK Chancellor of the Exchequer, is expected to raise inheritance and capital gains taxes, but she is being urged by a bevy of influential voices to go even further and to impose Britain's first annual wealth tax on unsuspecting homeowners. This would be a calamity, the most explosive assault on private property since the 1940s, and must be opposed by all right-thinking people. So as the article implies, Britain currently do not have an annual wealth tax, rightly. If such a tax is introduced, as according to the Wealth Tax Commission, it will be a broad tax based on the ownership of net wealth. By broad-based, we mean a tax on most or all types of asset, not only a specific type such as property, but net wealth. We mean a person's assets minus their debts. In other words, every bit of spare cash you have will be up for taxation. Say goodbye to anything that could be called luxury. I don't even know what would be luxury in this instance. Hell, you won't be able to afford even a cinema ticket if this is the case, let alone anything of substance. The article continues. They are desperate to whack rentiers, to hammer unearned wealth and landlordism, to penalise unfair windfalls, as they see it, from rising house prices, to wipe out second homeowners, all in the aid of renters and so-called working people, who apparently are defined as never aspiring to own anything. That's basically Labour all the way through. They dream of a Lloyd George-style people's budget for the 21st century. Okay, so for those who do not know, David Lloyd George was the definition of a radical. He hated monarchy, the Church of England, and basically religion as a whole. Now, I'm sure many people outside the UK don't care about the monarchy issue. I understand that from your perspective, but think of it this way. Imagine a president of the United States who hates the Constitution and removes the Constitution from parts of America. Lloyd George's hatred of religion led to the removal of the Church of England from Wales, a church, the monarchy, our head of state, is also protector of the faith. It was an attack on the monarchy. Now, the people's budget that is being referred to here was the first example of wealth redistribution, the sort of thing Kamala Harris talks about all the time now. This was done on incomes of £2,000 back then. This is the equivalent of about $225,000 in today's money. An income tax of 3.75% was added, and 5% on incomes greater than that, plus, and that's not it, plus a surcharge in the form of a super tax was proposed, with an additional increase on what was paid for death duties. Furthermore, a complete land valuation was proposed that would see a 20% tax on land that increases in value when you're changing ownership. So basically, when you're selling your property, just a normal property like mine, if I was to sell it to someone new, a 20% tax would be slapped on that. If we were going by this people's budget that was done back in the day. If they do anything like that now, we are screwed. And bear in mind, this is the guy who said he didn't like socialists or communists. He was, in my personal opinion, a de facto aristocratic champagne socialist. He really was. This is the type of style of tax attacks we can expect from Labour, or as the rest of the quote states, unlike in 1909, prosperous Middle England would be the principal target for punishment, not just large landowners. It's not just the so-called rich. They always try to make out it's rich people. When we think of rich people, we think of multi-millionaires, hell, verging on more billionaires. No, they're talking about people who might have, I don't know, might be earning 100,000 a year. Now, in today's standards, that's not much. But they're also going for another thing, which I'll get to in a moment. What people also forget with government is that everything is always added as a temporary initiative, but always becomes permanent when money is involved. As it states here in the article, the first law of taxation is that taxes are inevitably introduced at a low, manageable level, often on a temporary basis, keeping the useful idiots on the side, that's saying it mildly, but are soon jacked up. Inheritance tax in its modern form was just 7.5% when it was introduced in 1894. It had been hiked to 40% in 1930, 65% after the war, and a top rate of 75% in 1949. Does anybody really believe that an annual property tax would stay at 0.5% or so? It would soon turn into a historic exercise in expropriation. Now, I could just sit here and list income tax as an example in the UK of something that was repealed then reinstated on a permanent basis, but you know what, that's an easy example. Let's do something else. Let's look at our American cousins who are also impacted by these stupid laws. Federal estate tax used to be a temporary measure from wartime. All my links and sources are in the description below if you don't believe me. Because in 1916, this federal estate tax became a permanent feature of taxation because, and I quote from a Florida tax review, the 1916 estate tax embodied loftier ambitions. It became a core element of the nation's increasingly progressive tax system, an agent of social change embracing the ideas of Theodore Roosevelt and Andrew Carnegie, and designed to help reserve inequitable division of wealth resulting from the Gilded Age. Look, let's be real. All taxation, when proposed as temporary, specifically as temporary, one day becomes permanent. I will die on that hill. They are coming for us all. Pensioners, more so than anything else, will be the worst affected because their so-called wealth isn't in actual cash. It's in bricks and mortar. This is the other subject I was talking about earlier. Quote from the article, the second iron law of taxation is that wet taxes on income on spending are better than dry taxes on existing wealth. Now the terms wet and dry taxes I think is actually a British invention, I'll be honest. In fact, I think it was first coined, I believe, I could be wrong, please tell me in the comments, by Margaret Thatcher, as wet is a slang term used over here to describe something as weak or bad or just awful. So people who supported dry taxes in the 70s and 80s were usually Thatcher supporters. But anyway, enough of that, back to the quote. The former are better aligned with people's ability to pay. Many pensioners are asset rich but cash poor. This is so true. They would find it impossible to pay a new wealth tax and would be forced to sell their properties essentially. Some people would end up paying more than 100% of their income in tax as a result of quadruple or quintuple taxation 5 times. For a party that claims to care about ordinary people, for ordinary folk, they have an odd way of showing this when it comes to acquiring funds, don't they? I do love that socialist line of saying, oh, we are here for the working people, yeah, we're going to tax you to fuck. What is left of the city would shrivel. Several European countries were forced to abandon their wealth taxes after massive capital outflows. In America, property taxes lead to social segregation. Those on low incomes cannot afford to live in rich areas, even if they have paid off their mortgage. That is one of the biggest threats about this. It's so bad over there in America that it's literally referred to as the segregation tax, where homes can be worth 18% less in one neighborhood due to it being predominantly of one racial background than others, even if the house is no better in space or design than another one is in a nearby neighborhood. It's ridiculous. This is what they want here. They want further social conflict, furthering the importing of race issues that we never had as a country until roughly about 25 years ago. Oh yeah, guess who became PM back then? I'll give you 3 guesses, but you only need 1. Oh yeah, and by the way, as we all know that Labour lie, yeah, they lied about this too, promising no wealth taxes if they get into power. They literally say or do anything just to gain power, and people will vote for these cretins thinking, oh, maybe this time it'll be different. No, it's not going to be different. Why would they change who they are? It's the fundamentals of the party. All the entrepreneurs will be gone. All the wealth-creating minds will be gone. And you know, these people, sorry, no, not people, these freaks will turn around, these Labour freaks will turn around and blame wealth providers for the reason wealth is leaving these shores. And you know what? I would not blame anyone for leaving. They would be right to leave. But anyway, you've heard me rant for what is probably over 10 minutes. The point is, taxation is theft. That's not a right-wing policy. That's not a left-wing policy. That is just pure common sense. Lower taxes mean everyone is better off. But anyway, thank you for watching, and as always, do take care and God bless.